Hi everyone, this is Joy and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a couple cards for you using products from the new 'Tis the Season collection from Spellbinders. Now for the first card, I am using the Christmas Bloom Etched dies, and so I've got the dies laid out and I've already done all of my die cutting off camera, of course, to save some time, and then that way you can also see what die produces what image, if that makes sense. So here's all of the beautiful images in here. I just kept to greens and reds. I've got two different colors of reds, two different colors of greens. I've got a couple colors of browns for the pine cones, and I'm just going to glue some of these together to show you really quick how they go. So I've got two colors of poinsettias. I've got a darker, deeper red and a lighter red. Then you've got these little flowers here. The larger one is from the darker red. The smaller center flower is from the lighter red. We've got this beautiful little flower. It almost looks like little flower blooms. And so I die cut that from like a craft cardstock, the stem of that. Then I'm laying down the deeper red. And then there is another little die that you'll see in just a second that's a lighter red that goes on the tip of this. I really like the detail in these dies. They even have, like on the leaves of the poinsettia flowers, the veins are kind of die cut in, and so I really like that look. So I'm just using my liquid glue. I'm actually using the Barely Art liquid glue, and I'm just going to adhere all of those little pieces down. And for the pine cone, I actually have two pine cones. I'm just going to show you how to adhere one of those. I'm going to use the end of my tool-in-one to pop out all of those little pieces. This is what this is for. And so I have the outside in a little bit of a darker brown, and then the solid piece in the craft cardstock. What I'm actually going to do is add some embossing powder to this because I want it to look like there is some snow on these pine cones. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm coming in with Lawn Fawn's, they've got the, what is it? The textured white embossing powder. And I'm using Ranger's Emboss It pen to just add the embossing ink to the outside part of the pine cone. I'm sprinkling on that textured white embossing powder. Then I'm just going to dump off the excess and then heat it with my tool gun. This is really chunky embossing powder. Like, this is not something that you would use for fine letters, maybe on bigger letters, you know, if you want it to kind of look like it was snow or whatever. But this is really for just detail kind of stuff. So I'm going to finish up on this last pine cone. And then now I think those turned out so cute. Now I'm using the Make Art Station from Ranger, and I'm coming in with the plaid stencils from Lawn Fawn. I am going to do a black and gray plaid, and then we're going to put all of these greens and reds on top, and it's going to pop and it's going to look gorgeous. My inspiration for the background color combo is actually from Nicole Spohr. She had a video out a couple weeks ago, I think, using some waffle flower products, and she did a black and gray background, and I just thought it was gorgeous. So that is my inspiration from her. And so I'm coming in and I am using Lawn Fawn's Manatee ink, and I'm just going to ink up this plaid stencil. And you can see that it's going one direction, so the stripes are going from the top left to the bottom right, if that makes sense. And then once I'm done inking this up, we're going to turn this just one turn of the stencil, and that is going to give us the plaid, and we're going to ink this up. So I did one turn, and now you can see that it crisscrosses, and I'm going to come back in with that Manatee ink from Lawn Fawn and just ink that up again. I'm just using some blender brushes from Tailored Expressions, and I kept bumping the stencil for some reason and kept loosening it, and oh, it was kind of I was driving myself nuts when I was doing that. But anyways, on this second pass, I'm actually going a little bit lighter with the Manatee ink. So, you know, you can kind of decide how dark or light you want this. So now we're going to pull in the second stencil, and as you can see, the little lines are in the opening of the white stripes, if that makes sense to you. And so I made sure that's all lined up, and I'm coming in with Tailored Expressions Poppy Seed ink. It's a black ink, but it's not like stark black. So I'm just coming in and I'm using their bitty blender brushes, and I like it for the small stuff. I started off using that on the larger stencil opening, and then I needed a bigger brush because it was going to take me 1,000 years to get that done. So I'm just going to finish inking that up, and then I'm going to turn that one just once to the right, line it up in the white openings where there's not any ink, and then ink this up again, and then we're going to have this really gorgeous gray and black background. I think this color combo is really, really gorgeous because the reds and the greens are going to pop off of the page, and then you have an interesting background as well. So now that that's done, I'm actually going to come in and add some Glimmer hot foil because I love it. So I am using the Essentials Glimmer rectangles, and I'm using the largest one, and I'm going to come in with some gold foil. I taped down my rectangle at the top. I made 2 hinges. I'm doing that because if for some reason I don't get a really good foiled impression, I can just add some more foil and I won't have to try to line up my Glimmer plate because that's just not going to happen. So that way I can just line it back up if I don't get a good image, but I did get a fantastic image, and I like that little bit of gold around that outside edge. I'm also going to foil the sentiments. The sentiments, you know what? I forgot to write that down, so I will make sure that that is listed in the supplies that are linked below on the YouTube video, and I will also have it linked on my blog. But I'm using some gold foil. The sentiments are still from the 'Tis the Season collection. One of them says Making Spirits Bright, and the other one says Heaven and Nature Sing. I'm using the coordinating die to die cut this out. Obviously the sentiment die is ginormous, but I'm going to line it up on one side and die cut it. Then I'm going to slide it down, which is what I'm doing here, tape it down, and I can cut off that excess white part of the cardstock. So you will have a custom design die cut, if that makes sense. So I like to lay everything out ahead of time to kind of really get a feel for how I want it to look. And so that's what I did. And now I'm just going to kind of lift up the pieces and use some foam tape and some liquid glue to adhere those in. I have to say that those pine cones are absolutely my favorite. I love that it looks like there is snow on it. And I just really think that that brings more of the Christmas feel in. I think if I had left them plain, I mean, it still would feel like Christmas. I just feel like this just made it more Christmassy to me. So I'm using my tweezers from Spellbinders that helps me to tuck in the leaves. I lifted up some of the petals on the poinsettia flowers to give that dimension. I'm tucking in the leaves to make the hollyberry leaves and the little hollyberries. That's what I'm placing in right there. I used the light color red to die cut that out. I will have all of the colors of cardstock listed and linked below in the description, and again also on my blog. And I just love how this turned out. And we're going to have a simple sentiment strip that's foiled, which is really going to be stunning to this. I like the 2 different colors of greens and the 2 different colors of reds, even though it's all the same greens and reds, but you have a difference between the tones of those colors. And I think that that is really nice for this design. Now I'm going to add some foam tape behind my sentiment and adhere that down. And then I'm going to come in with some diamond stickles and just add that to the hollyberries and to the little insert pieces on those little flowers right there. And then I'm going to come in, and I believe I used sunflower for the centers of its liquid pearls, sunflower liquid pearls in the center of the poinsettia flowers. And then I used gold pearl to add a few little dots in and around the card. I didn't want to add a ton. I didn't want to take away from the flowers. And I do have this matted on a white A2 size card base, and I did trim it down about 1/8 of an inch on all sides. But I really think this turned out beautiful, and I love all the dimension and all the color with these flowers against that black and gray background. Okay, so our next card is going to be much simpler. I'm going to use that same stencil, but I'm not going to do plaid. I'm actually going to do stripes. And I'm using 2 colors. I'm actually using from, let's see, what are the colors? I'm using Mountain Mist and Volcano Lake from Altenew. And this is the 2 lightest colors in the little collection that they have. And I'm starting with that lightest one, and I'm just going to ink up the stripes, and the lightest one is the Mountain Mist. And it looks like I'm not even putting any color on here, and I even had to check because I thought, am I even inking anything up? See? And I was, and it turned out beautiful. I'm going to come in with the second stencil and have the stripes go the exact same way, but in the white opening. And this is where I'm going to use the Volcano Lake. and I'm just going to stencil that in there. This card is going to be blues and pinks for Christmas. For some reason, I really like that color combo. Like, I don't know that I would decorate my tree with that, but for cards, I really like that for Christmas. So I'm going to finish inking this up, and then we are going to die cut the cute, well, I already die cut off camera, the cute little Christmas ornaments, and that's from the holiday decorations from the 'Tis the Season. So you've got the two shapes here, and I have die cut that from Rose Quartz and Azalea cardstock from Cardstock Warehouse. And I used gold mirror cardstock for the little top parts that hang the little, I don't even know what they're called, but that you put the little hooks through. But I used gold mirror cardstock for that. These are simple to adhere together. So I have a ton more than I actually need. I used 5 of these on my card panel. I have a white card panel I trimmed down really small. I actually don't know the dimensions, but I'm matting that onto some gold mirror cardstock and just having a really small mat around that. I didn't want it to be huge. Now I have my sentiment lined up at the top. I'm coming in with a pencil and a ruler, and I'm just making a light little mark because I need to make the strings go up to meet underneath my sentiment, because it's going to look like all of these ornaments are hanging from the sentiment. So I want to make sure that it's all even and tucked underneath when I'm all done. I'm just using a black micro pen because it's really thin and tiny to draw my lines straight up. Then I'm going to come in and add some foam tape behind my sentiment, and that's going to go over and see how that looks. It looks like everything is hanging from the sentiment, which is exactly what I wanted. This sentiment says Making Spirits Bright. This is from the 'Tis the Season collection. Again, I can't remember the name of, oh, this is the mini strips. Yes, I do. This is the mini Christmas sentiment strips. That is the Glimmer foil plates. So now that I have that adhered, I'm going to add some foam tape behind 3 of these ornaments and then liquid glue behind the other 2. And I love how simple this design is. And when you pop this onto that blue striped background, it is so pretty. And to me, it still feels very Christmassy, even though it's like non-traditional Christmas colors. So I'm going to finish adhering these down. I'm going to add one more piece of foam tape behind this one. And I like that it has different dimensions between all of the ornaments. I think that that adds interest to your card. And I'm making sure that I covered up the ends of the black line. I don't want to see that through the opening of the top part of the ornament. I'm going to add some foam tape behind this card panel because I do want this to have some dimension. And I did adhere this card panel to a white A2 size card base. I'm just going to center that in there. And then this card is completely finished. Isn't that just so pretty? It's so simple and yet so pretty. I love this 'Tis the Season collection. I do have another video from the 'Tis the Season collection as well. Thank you guys so very much for stopping by and watching. I appreciate you all, and I hope that you enjoyed this project, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.